raving and lauding praise down upon Patrick Mahomes since he became a starter in the league and he threw 50 touchdowns in his first year as a starter. We've seen all of that. You know what we haven't, the one thing we haven't seen from Patrick Mahomes, Max, is if he's angry and he feels like somebody's trying to throw shade on him. We have not seen how he would respond to that. We can only imagine how he would respond, but we haven't seen it yet. And the Raiders are my team that I'd say is the sleeper. I think John Gruden's doing a hell of a job along with Mike Mayock. I do. I think they deserve a lot of credit. I think Derek Carr, who's been on a mission to regain some of the respect he thinks he may have lost over the last few years, he's having an outstanding season. I've been very impressed with what I've seen with Derek Carr. Not turning the ball open, throwing the ball with some accuracy, not folding under pressure, what have you. I've been very impressed with what I've seen from Derek Carr. Then you've got, obviously, Ruggs, and you've got Waller and these boys, and Josh Jacobs running the football. They could play smash mouth if you ask them to. They've got a really good offensive line. I'm just looking at the Raiders right now, and based on what I'm seeing from them, I'm like, okay, what you got? And because I think this weekend, regardless of everything I just said, I think the Chiefs are going to give it to them. I think the Chiefs are going to come out looking at that one blemish on their record. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we need to be looking for a potential blowout this Sunday with the Chiefs and the Raiders. We need to keep our eyes on that. The Raiders better be ready because they could be in some trouble.
Well, the Chiefs are capable of blowing out any team. And I hear what you're saying. I think it's an interesting point about Mahomes and the Chiefs. Like, they have something to prove now against the Raiders, divisional rival. But the Chiefs, let's not forget, the Raiders, rather, let's not forget, had the same situation going into the first game. So Derek Carr especially, can he throw it down the field? And he obviously was highly motivated. Let's see what happens with Mahomes now. I like that point. But if the question is, can the Raiders win again? The answer is yes. A lot of things have to go right. But they did the first time they met. First of all, the Chiefs want to avoid shootouts, which is shocking. I keep telling you this, Stephen A. Casey Joyner, the football scientist, appears on the Max Kellerman Show, ESPN Radio, 2 p.m. Eastern. Check it out. And informed me several weeks ago, Chiefs want to avoid shootouts. What? When Mahomes burst on the scene in 2018, they were beating everyone with shootouts. What do you mean they want to avoid shootouts? They want to avoid shootouts. They're above 500 in those kind of games, but not much. And in every other game, they're almost undefeated. So if you can get into a shootout with the Chiefs, at least you have a chance. But the Raiders didn't simply get into a shootout with them. They got excellent line play. They had some speed on the outside, and Derek Carr was throwing good passes, accurate passes down the field. So they jumped out to a lead. And in the second half, rather than continuing to do that, Gruden showed his chops, which, if you've watched Gruden at all, you know he's got them, at coaching chops. When he stopped taking those shots down the field and with a lead, starts to run the ball, right? A lot of things went right for them, including excellent offensive line play against the Chiefs defense, which in the last year and a half has actually been very good for the most part.
The revenge game for the Chiefs in Las Vegas. Raiders defensive coordinator Paul Guenther, this is a guy, by the way, and Key knows this, that's been around John Gruden for a long time. This is a big-time Gruden lieutenant. The Raiders have been ravaged by COVID, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. A bunch of guys on the reserve list. We're waiting to see. Hopefully, if they test negative, they'll be out there Sunday night. Whoever they have, whoever they don't have. Despite winning the first game against Kansas City, defensive coordinator Paul Guenther is not sure how they can ever make it 2 for 2.
I don't know, how we can beat these guys with a full lineup at practice, let alone 3/4 of your lineup not here all week. What don't they have? We're playing the world champs. What don't they have? They got a great quarterback, great receivers, great tight ends, line's physical, and they're coming off a bye, so it's a daunting task. I know one thing that we're going to show up at 5:20. We're going to 100% because that's what we do. So we'll get these guys ready to play. Whoever's out there at 5:20, they'll be ready to go.
Huh? Where's the confidence?
He's just talking, man. He's just talking. He's sitting there saying, oh, well, I don't know, 5:20, whoever we have, they'll be ready 100%. They got a great quarterback, great this, coming off a bye. That's that coach's stuff. I don't even know what the question was that was posed to him, and I don't really care, but that's a coach talking. So if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm not even paying attention to that conversation, Jay, because all it is he's trying to set us up for failure. You think you want to dupe us? You think we that stupid where we just gonna listen to you and believe everything that you putting out there to the media? That's a Gruden tactic. That's a coach's tactic.
I mean, that could be a play. I mean, that could easily, sometimes you say things put stuff out there to see how the other team can maybe take you for granted or not look at the matchup that seriously. I understand. I'm going to play devil's advocate here, though, just a little bit, because I feel like sometimes this happens, and I don't know if this actually happened in this particular media interview, because, Key, you and I both have had some gripes with journalists here and there, right?
Yeah, Zubin.
So, and I'm not saying this happens. I'm just trying to provide context and give a variety of reasons why he could say something sarcastic or something like that. Sometimes what happens is when people ask you questions or people come out with headline stories and they don't really give full context. So I feel like in the age today, if the Chiefs were to dominate the Raiders, people won't talk about the fact that the Raiders haven't had a full week of practice or that people are out due to COVID or that injuries are there to talk about that. People will come out the headline like this Raiders team isn't it. So sometimes maybe just to play devil's advocate, Key, if you're a coach, like, no, in my interview, I'm going to make sure that you understand here are all the feats that we're actually facing going into this game. It could maybe sound like a built-in excuse, but to a degree, I want you to know that before you write any of these crazy articles saying that we're not a team that's it, because Key, you and I both agree that they have a chance to be an it team, that these are the parameters in which we're actually playing with.
I don't really know that anybody that is in the, I was almost called a concussion protocol, but the COVID protocol, I don't know if any of those guys are major factors to what they might do on the defensive side of the ball. So the way that I look at it in listening to Coach, I'm kind of like, he's just saying those things. Yes, we understand that Kansas City has weapons all over the place and they got a Super Bowl champion and a quarterback who's been an MVP and all of those things. I understand that. You don't need to tell and remind people of something that we already know. So to me, it's like the coach is just setting it up just to be able to, play games with Kansas City. Like, yeah, y'all think y'all really that good. We beat y'all the first time, even though y'all had everything that I just said. Y'all had great quarterback, great coaching, great receivers, great running game, great defense, and we still shellacked y'all and rode around the stadium in the bus. That's kind of how I looked at it.
Or you can look at it as a built-in excuse, Zubin, where it's like, hey, even if you do get beat, like, well, I told you guys that, these are all the things we were facing going into the game.
I hope the coach ain't doing that.
NFL insider Diana Rossini with much more on a huge NFL Sunday and Monday in 2 minutes. But Key mentioned the bus. If you didn't hear that story, back on October 11th, when they won that game and really opened the eyes of the league, Coach Gruden took a victory lap bus tour around Arrowhead Stadium. He really couldn't go around Arrowhead Stadium inside to find those Raider fans that travel to every game because it just aren't fans of games. So he said, all right, we're not going to have the victory lap inside the stadium. Let's do it outside of the stadium. But this is an important point as well. There's a lot of people that'll say, yeah, you know what? Raiders clipped him. Raiders got him. Mahomes was 8 for 14 when pressured, just 114 yards. He was just off his game. You get him twice. You get him twice. Then the perception of the Raiders really starts to change. But if the Chiefs go out there and run him out of the building, it's an aberration.
Exactly. But it's up to the Raiders to change that, though, right? It's up to them to change that, take care of business again against Kansas City so they can be taken for real in the AFC, because I'm going to be one of those guys.
This is a litmus test game.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to be one of those guys. You go out there and you get shellacked and they hang 40 on you, I'm going to have a problem with that, because this is a moment of an opportunity for you to take the next step. Now you can apply that pressure within the division. Right now they're ahead of you. But if you clip them, now all of a sudden you 2 games that you've gotten them. Now you tighten that on them, right? All of a sudden they feel a little bit different. They kind of looking over their shoulder a little bit. But if you let them get out of Vegas, McCarran Airport, back to Kansas City, then you deserve to get what you get.
What's on the line for Gruden here?
I think this is, in terms of his return back to the NFL, this is the biggest game on his return back to the NFL because, again, you close the gap. Last year, they got out to a great start. Second half of the season, not so good.
6-4 start, 7-9 finish.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, now you can prove to everybody that you did it your way. I built this team the way I wanted to. Although they were a good team under Jack Del Rio, he didn't necessarily have to blow it up the way that he did, but he wanted to get his guys in so that his guys could really, truly understand what he wanted and not have to fight and battle with guys that had the Jack Del Rio backing. Now he got his guys. They backed John Gruden, which is okay. If the Raiders were willing to wait 3 years to get to this moment, I'm fine with it. As they say, if you like it, I love it.
It also feels like it's one of those games, too, not only for John Gruden. It's how they win, though, Zubin, right?